Alright, sweet. So, making this video to try to put some thoughts together about how neurolinguistic programming overlaps with human design. Programming and design. And this is the programming and design of our minds. What I found is that our minds have a certain structure to them, and if we don't know that structure, we can end up running into a bunch of unnecessary problems that we don't need to run into. So, yeah, I'm just thinking through how to make a connection between these ideas. They're both what would be known as pseudo-scientific ideas. They haven't been validated by the scientific community, but I've been experimenting with them personally in my own life, and I've found great benefits in mixing the two thought processes, the two frameworks. And so I'm doing this writing as a way to kind of make sense of it all. So, I guess that makes me a bit of a pseudo-scientist. I know most scientists probably wouldn't want to admit that they are pseudo-scientists, but I don't have a research institute behind me. I don't have the funding to be able to step into the politics that goes along with, putting out scientific research. But I have started to gain more capacity in my life, and I want to organize my thoughts. I owe a lot of gratitude to mainly Carl Jung, George Gurdjieff, Angelo DeLullo, Steve and Connie Ray Andreas, Ra Uruhu, and of course Zeno, Ra's first student in human design. I learned a lot about human design through the books that were transcribed from Ra's lectures. That was my introduction. Reading the written word of his spoken voice, those transcriptions, really helped me to get my foot in the water. But when I started out, it was all so confusing. I was lost. I had no clue what the hell or how the hell to apply what I was learning. It all was fascinating to my mind, but practically I didn't know how to use it. And I think the presuppositions of NLP, things like the communication, the meaning of your communication is the way it's received, or there is positive intention behind every behavior. I think these presuppositions help support the understanding of conditioning through the human design lens that I was later retaught by Zeno. I found her and I found Ra, both when they had already passed. But Zeno was with Ra at the beginning of his teaching of human design, and in the 90s, and she stayed with him for over a decade until she realized that he had kind of departed from the original system that he taught her and began trying to take it in more of a capitalistic direction, turning the system into kind of something that could go viral. And in a way it did go viral, although it's still pretty niche. There aren't a ton of people who know about it or who are very sold on it. But I think his attempt to make it go viral, personally, this is how I feel, and Zeno's kind of perspective, is that it diluted the message, the simple and the simplicity of the system as it was originally delivered. So I think coming back to that simplicity and just looking at the body graph, looking at the very simple mechanics of the body graph, you know, is something that is going to be really beneficial. I can zoom in here, look at the body graph. You know, we've got this body graph here, and it's something that's kind of revolutionary. We've been aware of the chakra system, the Kabbalah system, the astrology system, and the I Ching system separately for a long time, but this graphic here kind of synthesizes all of those things in a way that's really powerful. And I think if more people were aware of how the body graph worked, fused again with those presuppositions of neurolinguistics, they could drop a lot of the baggage that we call personality disorders. You know, I dealt with a slew of undiagnosed personality disorders for the most of my life. I mean, I would say it started around the age of 7 when I first got introduced to pornography and when I started developing kind of an unhealthy relationship with food, to deal with my emotions, really to repress my emotions. I was learning all of that at that time, and it was not healthy. And of course, like I said, it resulted in what I would describe as a personality disorder. It was undiagnosed, so I don't know if I would have said it was, at first probably I would have said I was depressed. Then at some point I would have said I was addicted to porn. Then at some point I would have said it was an eating disorder or BPD or narcissism or anxiety, social anxiety, or just low self-esteem. All of these different labels that I was trying to attach to my experience so I could understand it. And it was basically just a self-confirmation thing, a self-fulfilling prophecy. No matter which banner of personality disorder I put it under, I could find confirmation of my behavior to say that I was depressed or I was anxious or I was addicted. And I'm not saying that any of those understandings are wrong, but I think that for myself and potentially for a lot of people who deal with those kinds of things, the picture is simpler than we've been told. We've been kind of, through the psychology practice, been taught that these things are very nuanced and fine shades of gray of diagnosis. When you look at the manual for diagnosis, the DSM, I think we're on 5 now, maybe 6, that's been produced since the 1950s. We've been categorizing the way that our behavior shows up, the way that our behavior malfunctions, basically, and stops working. And we've been trying to make sense of it, so we've been categorizing it into smaller and smaller boxes, splitting hairs on whether or not you have this disorder or that disorder. But I think ultimately, we don't have disorders. We just have a misunderstanding of how we're designed and how we're programmed, and how, through understanding our design, we can reprogram ourselves. I've been out here learning a lot about the, I guess, ideas in the New Age spirituality realm that would talk about the idea that we create our own reality. And I think that is... Oh, what's good, bro?
You on a voice call?
No, I'm recording a video for myself.
I
You feel me? You feel me? I like them glasses, bro.
Thanks, dog.
You looking swaggy. But yeah, basically, the New Age thought that wants to say that you create your own reality is fair, and I think to an extent true, but I think it's unbalanced. I think it's an unbalanced view, and it's become unbalanced because it kind of disregards the health of the body. And I think that you create your own reality is only true when your nervous system is regulated. And even then, I would extend it to say that you don't create your own reality, you create your map of reality. Or in a way, you choose your map of reality. And based on the map that you choose, you will have access to more things around you that are already there. It's not like you're creating something out of nothing, out of thin air. You're just manifesting, what is that idea of manifesting? Bringing something from the invisible to the visible, you know? Manifesting out of nowhere. It's like this thing that you're trying to attract into your life is already there. It already exists. The thing is that you just aren't aware of it because the map that you're operating with isn't allowing you to see it. So once you learn how to regulate your nervous system, you then have the option to tweak the map and update the map that you are operating with using NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and the presuppositions that the practitioners of neuro-linguistic programming have found. You can change your map of reality and begin to experience, the things that were already there in a new way. So, for example, if I go through life with a map saying that I'm depressed, I'm going to see the parts of my reality that reconfirm my depression over and over and over and over again. But if I turn around and say that I'm a lifelong student, I change my map from depressed to lifelong student, then what before would seem like a string of failures just seems like a system of feedback. And I begin to learn about myself. I get to learn about the way my world works, not how the world works, because I can't see the world. And that's another one of the presuppositions of neurolinguistic programming, is that we don't actually see reality. We only see our map of reality. And when we confuse our map of reality for actual reality is when I think we get into these personality disorders. So this isn't even to speak of the way that fits in with human design and the way that we are designed. And again, I don't want to be too dogmatic about this. Human design is still kind of an unproven theory, but it's a theory that's worked tremendously in my life, and I just want to share it. I think that you guys could find use if you experiment with this map of reality. I think, there's a lot of power in looking at this map of reality. So if we were to look back at this, I guess, is there a way to refresh? So here we are. Now I got the body graph up. So we've got this body graph here, and basically this is like a user manual, or not just a diagnostic tool. How do I say it? I want to put it in the context of a car, because I want to say that our minds are designed like a self-driving car. And if we understand how that car is designed, this is kind of like the user manual for that self-driving car. And basically, you have this vehicle, you have a passenger, you have a pilot, and those three things, the pilot, the passenger, and the vehicle, they have three different roles. And I think what happens often is that kind of the way we understand it, the way that I've understood it, is that, there's a conscious mind and a subconscious mind. And the conscious mind, and then the body, right? It's like the conscious mind and the subconscious mind are interacting through this medium of the body, through this vehicle of the body. They're both like traveling through space in this vehicle, in our bodies. And the conscious mind, what we get to use, what we understand and experience as ourselves, is a passenger, where our subconscious minds is the pilot. And I think that our personality disorders derive from a confusion of roles when our conscious minds try to play the role of pilot and forget that they're passengers, and they're basically thrashing around in the passenger seat trying to make the car go where they want it to go, grabbing the wheel and ending up in ditches, rather than allowing the pilot to go where it needs to go, where it knows to go, and then using the presuppositions of NLP, we can update the map. And by updating the map, it's almost like when you look out of the window of this car, you're not really looking out at the landscape that's passing you by. It's like you're only able to see like a Google Map version of the landscape. When you look on Google Maps, you can look at it through the filter of restaurants near me, or gas near me, or hotels near me, or national parks near me. Whatever you put into the search query, you're going to get those things populated on your map. And it's like we're not actually looking out the window, we're just looking at this map here and seeing what goes past. So if we can first remember that we're not the pilot, or not just remember, I think it is a remembrance, but it's almost like we've never known this. We've been kind of programmed and conditioned to think that we're the pilots of our lives, that we should be steering our lives through our mental activity. This is just kind of standard for humanity. And it's unfortunate because it's not true. And a lot of times we feel like failures because we're not able to steer our lives just off of our mental capacity. Some of us are designed to be able to do that. But the majority of us, as we'll see as I go further in showing examples of how the body graph works, it's not really what we're designed to do. We're really designed to sit back and watch. And it's like life can be super easy in a constant flow state if we're just allowing this self-driving car, self-driving vehicle to take us through the beautiful, almost like we're on like a cosmic safari, and we're just looking out and seeing all of the beautiful life out there. If we allow ourselves to sit back and relax and allow our nervous system to regulate, so that we're no longer in a fight and flight mode. I believe that that's step one. You remember that you're not the pilot, you're just a passenger. And then you learn how to update the map that you're seeing so you get more of what you want, and what's relevant to you, what's meaningful to you. I think often our maps are handed to us by our parents and by our society, and we just learn to stay with that map for our whole life, and it's not necessary, So, I'm kind of creating this course to show you how to let go of being a pilot, allow your subconscious mind to drive your life, and get familiar with all of the archetypes and, how would I say, mechanisms and programs that work through your subconscious mind. It's going to be really difficult for me to not mix metaphors through this. I want to keep it in the realm of cars, but I do see there are a lot of different metaphors that I've learned these concepts through. So I'm going to try my best to not confuse them. Although sometimes I guess in these videos like I'm making now that are for my sake, I will have to work that out kind of consciously and find the kinks so that I can rework it into the language of the self-driving car. Regardless, I think that remembering ourselves as passengers, allowing the pilot to drive, and learning how to update the map can give us an enormous sense of freedom. It can basically eliminate this feeling of personality disorder. There's so much talk about attachment styles and narcissism and, just dysfunction when it comes to human cooperation. And I don't think that has to be the case. I think if we put the health of our bodies and the health of our nervous systems at the forefront, tune our vehicles up so that they're allowed to ride comfortably. It's like that's your job as the passenger, is just to maintenance the car, fuel the car, query the map, look out the window, and allow the car to drive itself. There's no need for resistance in this life. I think that there's an argument that living a life with zero resistance is almost an equivalent with what we would understand as enlightenment. But I'm not going to take it that far just yet. I'm just going to start here with how this is possible, how it might be possible for us to understand a new way of thinking of our design and our programming as humans, how we can get along with each other. As I also really like the idea that life is a single player game, It's like life is this single player game and we're all trying to level up, we're all trying to make it to our max capacity, but we're playing in this open world format where we're running into each other, and I think that it can be really confusing when we think that we need everybody else to be operating within our same frame, our own games, you know what I'm saying? It's like sometimes you do want to go play within somebody else's frame, but if you don't understand that consciously, it can turn into a war, and it can turn, into wartime instead of realizing that it's just a game. We're just playing games. And it can be really fun. It can be an extraordinary game if we learn how to play it. So, yeah, let me see if there's anything else that I missed. Yeah, I also want to put this in the context of being an artist. I'm an artist, and I truly believe that everyone is an artist. But I think that often we don't realize we're artists because what we think of as an artist is someone who's commercially successful in the art industry. But I want to kind of flip that on its head and think about how we can turn our whole lives into a work of art. That every moment could be perceived as a work of art. You know, that they usually say beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Well, I want to say that art is in the eye of the artist. And to become the artist that you were born to be, you know, there's a way that everything that you see can be a work of art. And I think that it's not just necessarily the end goal. It's not like something you achieve, but it's a mode of experience that you can step into based on these frameworks, so that not just thinking about, oh, I'm prolific and I put out all this work and I'm getting all this external validation, people are paying me for it, and I'm feeling great about, you know, that creativity, but to just see your life through a lens of creativity. So every moment is validated by you as a work of art, you know, even in the difficult times when it's painful, when it's boring, when work is slow, when your partner's not texting you back, you know, when the food doesn't taste right. Everything is a part of this movie. So maybe I'll have to separate into a few different metaphors with the car, with the movie, theater, and with the artificial intelligence. But that's about 27 minutes of recording. I don't know how long it's going to take to upload this to YouTube. I don't want these to get too long. I want to break down this transcript so I can run it through AI and start thinking about these things and break it down into something that can be a little snappier. So I'm going to stop the recording now and see how that goes.